Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Mutia Amira and I will be discussing the testing of the accuracy and completeness assertion. As we all know, when there is a testing of completeness and accuracy assertion, you are testing the correct amount of the sales or accounts receivable. Since we are discussing about the revenue cycle, we are focusing on the sales and accounts receivable. As for the completeness, it is tested, or the files or the sales invoices or shipping logs being checked if it is complete. So in this section, or in this part of the video or discussion, I will be continuing the discussion about the testing the accuracy and completeness assertion as it was discussed by the previous reporter. So let's move to the next slide. So another event in reviewing the completeness and accuracy assertion is the review of sales invoice and shipping log. So the sales invoice and shipping log are being reviewed. It is because sometimes there are files for missing and duplicated items. So take note that when there is a missing files or missing sales invoice and duplicated sales invoice, it may result to an overstated or understated sales and accounts receivable. So, furtherly, we will be discussing about the missing sales invoice and duplicated sales invoice. So, searching for missing or duplicated transaction is another important test that help the auditor support the completeness and accuracy assertion. So, a duplicated sales invoice are records that may indicate a computer program error that are materially overstate sales and accounts receivable. Since it is duplicated, it is very clear that it really overstates the sales and accounts receivable because you are recording the sales twice. That is why the sales and accounts receivable are overstated. As for the missing sales invoice, which is um, inversely proportional, a missing when there is a missing sales invoice, there is understatement because sales invoice is missing, which is it was not recorded. Or usually missing sales invoice are defined as may point to an unrecorded sale that was shipped but not billed, thus understating the accounts receivable and the sales. So you may wonder, how does the auditor can determine the duplication and missing in sales invoices? It is by ACL, or by the features of ACL. So as discussed in chapter 8, let's review what is ACL. ACL is a audit command language. It is the leader in the industry. So ACL was designed as a meta language for auditors to access data stored in various digital formats and to test them comprehensively. In fact, many of the problems associated with accessing complex data structures has been solved by the ACL. So, Open Database Connectivity, or also known as ODBC interface, that is used on how the ACL is used, which is its features can be filtered, which the auditors used in detecting the gaps, in detecting the missing sales invoices. There are many features that the ACL has, which helps the auditors in having a convenient in detecting errors, something like that. So ACL, or Audit Command Language, can test a designated field for out of sequence records, gaps in sequence numbers, and duplicated values for the entire file. So using this feature, the auditor can scan the invoice field number of all records in the sales invoice file. So in the given example, which is the partial report shows that there is 243 records in the sales invoice file that are either duplicated or missing. So, in resolving this issue, the auditor will need to interview management and employees involved in the process and seek answers to the following types of question. First is, are procedures in the place to document and approve voided invoices? How are gaps in sales invoices communicated to management? What physical control exists over access to sales invoice source documents? Are batch total used to control total transaction during data processing? Are transaction listings reconciled and reviewed by management? So those are the questions that um, needs to be asked by the auditor on the organization when there is a missing and duplicated items or duplicated sales invoice. So next event is review line item and inventory files for sales price accuracy. So evidence from testing the product prices charged to customers supports the objective of accuracy. Sometimes sales personnel are given limited authority to negotiate prices with customers. Significant discrepancies between the suggested retail price and the price charged, however, may indicate incompetence, errors, or sales personnel exceeding their authority. So one of the best example is in a retail outlet in a department store in which the price given to their products or to the products are fixed, in which that is already computerized. Ibig sabihin, the prices are already computerized and non-negotiable. If ever there is an error on the prices or on the price tag that is given to the product, is we assume that the computer has the clerical error and not the uh, salesperson itself because it is already fixed. The best example is whenever we go to Robinsons, to Gaisano Mall, to their department store, which is the price there is fixed and non-negotiable. So traditionally, auditors would verify pricing accuracy by comparing sales prices on the invoices with the published price list. But because of the physical effort involved in this approach, it could be done only on a sample basis. So therefore, out of thousands of sales records, perhaps only one or two to 200 would be tested. So since ACL is available already, the ACL allows the auditor to compare prices charged on every invoices in the file for the period under review. So shown in the slide is the example on how the ACL joint feature works. So ACL allows the auditor to compare the prices charged on every invoice in the file for the period under review. So this procedure involves a few simple steps. First, notice that the actual sales price charged is stored in the sales price field in the line item file. The suggested retail price for each product is the retail price field in the inventory file. So as you can see in the table, in the line item table and the inventory table. So also the two files have item number as a common field. So this field is the key field on which the two files are related. So using this common field, the objective of the test is to match each record in the line item file with the corresponding record in the inventory file. So we can compare the sales price and the retail price fields for constancy. As significant discrepancies can then be identified and investigated. So the actual steps in this test are described or will be described. So first, both files need to be ordered according to their common key. So you are going to see in area here the common key. So item number is the primary key of the inventory master file, and we will assume that the file is already in the proper sequence. So since the line item file contains the details of the invoice file, it is probably organized by invoice number at this time. It is therefore necessary to sort this file on the item number field to place it in the same order as the inventory file. This process involves simply opening the file and um, involving the ACL's sort feature. So that sort feature, it will sort the common file and not and those files that are not common. So the next step is to combine the two files to create a third, which is the third file is the joint file, which are the common files. So the ACL accomplishes this with its join feature. The auditor has the several options when joining the file. The one most relevant to this test is to create a third file that consists only of matched records. The auditor can change the join feature in which uh, the auditor can choose if the third file is for the unmatched records or for the unmatched records, as long as you change the feature or the filter in it, the filter on the ACL feature. So in other words, the new file will contain only the line item and inventory records whose value for the item number of field match. So any inventory records that are not matched with a line item record will not part of the new file, of course. So the ACL's join feature permits the auditor to specify the fields from the two input files that are to be passed to the new output file from the line item file to verify pricing accuracy of the invoice number, item number, and sales price from the inventory file. The fields are description and retail price. So at this point, the resulting file may still be very large. So scanning the file visually for price differences could be time consuming and ineffective. So again, there is an application for a filter which through a series of menus that the auditor can easily create, as I have mentioned earlier. So that is how the joint feature is used by the auditor, which help the auditor to know the common files. What are the differences, discrepancies? So the resulting file after having the feature can contain only the unmatched or matched records. That is how the joint feature is the joint feature of ACL is used, or how it works.